Hi, this is Dan with QT Equipment. Behind me, we've got an F600 with an IMT 11-foot body with a pretty unique tarp system that we just finished up. We've covered the truck hugger tarp system before, and there's a couple other load space enclosures that we do around here. This one's a little bit unique, and I wanted to shoot a video on it so that if you were looking for options to enclose your load space, you knew that this was something you could do. On the front, we've got a Ford F600, and as you probably know, the F600 came out about a year or two ago, and it's pretty much identical to an F550, except the GVW goes up to 22,000 to get a little extra weight capacity there. For the body, this is a IMT Dom 1 body. It's an 11-foot body, and as you can tell, it's raised to 60 inches all the way around. On the stock Dom 1 bodies that we usually bring in and sell, the compartments are going to be lower on the driver's side and next to the crane, and only the bottle compartment in the front passenger side is going to be raised to 60 inches. But because this truck gets the tarp system that it does, that all needs to be, for this tarp system, one level across, and so you raise it up to 60 inches, which is nice because you get the extra capacity inside your compartments. As you can tell, this is a Champion gas compressor. We do a handful of these. The more popular compressor is the BA440 compressor. That's a hydraulic reciprocating compressor. The thing about that, obviously, is that you're going to need to have your truck engine on for the hydraulics to work unless you've got an NPAC situation. But the Champion compressor, that's got its own gas tank up there, and you're going to be able to use your compressor with your truck off. The compartment here has just toolboxes in it. And you can see that we've got some steps here so that there's a key up at the top for turning your compressor on. So you can just walk up, turn your compressor on, and get to work. Over the wheel wells, we've got a American Eagle horizontal box, and this has 3 5-inch boxes. This is nice if you've got a lot of long tools you need to store, and we've got a shelf above there. We've got 3 work lights. These are Bayer work lights up at the top. There's one on the back, and then the same thing on the other side of the truck. The other horizontal compartment is got bolt bins, so this truck has plenty of storage. Up at the top, you can notice there's a rail system up here, and you might be wondering what that's for. I'm almost positive that the customer is going to mount a welder back here once he gets the truck, and whether that's a welder that he purchased himself or a welder that he pulled off another truck and is able to repurpose, this is a good way to do this. You can mount the welder on the top of the side packs. It's strong enough to handle it, but you are going to be putting some bolts through your compartments, and if you wanted to avoid that situation for longevity of your body, water, etc., putting your welder up on these rails is a good idea. Back in this compartment here, we've got a Thor 3000 watt pure sine wave inverter, and the pure sine wave part of the inverter is going to, if you look at a sine wave, it's a very even wave that goes across. That's going to be an inverter that's safe for charging laptops and similar material. The regular inverters, it's got a chunky sine wave on it, and that may be good for a grinder, but you may not want to plug expensive electronic equipment into an inverter like that. On the top corners of the boxes, you'll notice that we've got masterlock installed, and we're doing this pretty much standard on everything now. This spring-loaded masterlock system from IMT works really well, and it's nice to be able to conveniently lock all your compartments on the one side. We've got 2 sets of strobes. You'll see the outlet there for the inverter that we talked about. You've got a backup camera here. You've got, what else do we have? Hose reel. Of course, you have the Wilton 8-inch American-made vise, the best vise on the planet, bar none. And then, obviously, the reason for doing this video is the tarp system. Let's take a look at how this tarp system works. A few things you're going to need to consider if you're going to cover your load space. One of them is that your crane can swing. And with the truck hugger system or anything that's going to be fairly tall, you're going to have to move that out of the way for your crane to rotate. This one sits nice and low. The crane's going to be able to rotate with no problems. You're not going to have to touch this tarp to use your crane. The other consideration that you're going to have for a tarp system is how watertight do you want it? Some people don't care about water tightness of their tarp system. It's more for just, as we say, leaves and thieves. Keep eyes out and keep debris out of your load space. This one, because it wraps around the rail system, it's going to do a pretty good job of keeping water out of your load space. This tarp system is going to get secured to the body through these little elastic bungee cords, and then there's a hook that's welded into the body. These are up and down the rail system and keep the tarp really nice and tight with the body. To uncover your load space, you're going to undo those bungee cords like we just showed, and then I've already started this process, but this tarp will just roll up. You'll notice that there's 2x4s that are sewed into the tarp. These are pressure treated 2x4s, and it's going to make your tarp system very sturdy. When you're going up and down the road, you're not going to get a lot of flapping that's going to cause your tarp to wear out early. Now that we've got the tarp opened up, you can see the rail system that is welded to the top of the side packs and also down the sides here. The downside of this system is that, unlike some of the other load space enclosures that we do, we can take a stock body that we just have sitting on the ground and install a tele top or put a truck hugger or do a custom tarp system. If you wanted this tarp system, we would have to order this body from IMT and have it brought in this way. We couldn't do this aftermarket. Plus, you're going to need the taller compartments all the way around, and we typically do not stock the bodies that way. Provided you've got the time to plan for this and you can bring this body in, we would build this whole truck. We send this to a local guy that all he does is build tarps, and he sews this and puts this together for us. If you wanted a different color tarp or you had a different idea on how you wanted this to fasten, I'm sure that he could work with you and make that happen. We know that this truck is probably getting a welder here, so if you can imagine a big, I'm assuming it's a Miller welder, it could be a Lincoln, a big blue box sitting on the back corner here, it is going to be difficult to get in and access these hooks. I'm sure it's doable, but it's not going to be the most convenient. I'm sure that because of the heft of these 2x4s that are in there, that if you left a couple of these loose, it's not going to be a big deal. And I'm only saying that because I'm guessing we're going to get a comment that says, how do you fasten that tarp with the hooks and you've got that big welder there? And you know what? You're exactly right, and that's why I appreciate our customers. They're always thinking ahead. They're thinking a couple of steps ahead and making sure that you know what the engineers have dreamed up can really happen in the field. So yes, it might be a little difficult to get into some of these. It's going to be doable, but if you wanted to leave a couple out, I'm sure the tarp's going to stay secure. Now that we've got the tarp completely rolled up, you can see that you've got access to pretty much your entire load space. There may be 10 inches, 12 inches or so that you wouldn't be able to drop something in, but unlike a tele top option, the tele top option is going to collapse, I think, in 3 sections. So you're going to have this back third of your load space that is not going to be usable for you to drop anything in. I mean, you'll always be able to slide stuff in, obviously, but with this tarp system the way it is, if you had something that was really tall and you just wanted to keep your tarp folded up to be able to haul that, you could do it this way. I will say that doing this video, I've rolled this tarp up and down a couple of times, and it is going to take a little bit more time than a tele top or a truck hugger. Somebody that's going to get in and out of their load space multiple times a day probably may look at this and just be like, oh, I don't want to have to mess with my tarp that much. It's really not all that difficult to do, but again, it's just something you're going to have to weigh in your decision-making matrix, how much you want to get in your load space and how much time you want to spend securing your tarp. Some people use a tele-top or a tarp system because they're worried about security. They're worried about thieves walking by and seeing a juicy set of chains that they can go scrap, right? And pulling your favorite piece of cribbing out of the load space. I mean, those things are a reality, especially in some parts of the country. This system has no locking mechanism for the tarp, and neither do a lot of other, even a pickup truck tarp. You're going to be able to take a box cutter and just rip that thing right open. But the nice thing about it is that the eyes aren't there. People can't see what's going on in there. So they're probably, unless they know, they're probably not going through the effort to cut open your tarp to break in there. The more secure option, if you're really worried about security, is the tele-top, because that's going to be much tougher to break into than a tarp. Thanks for watching, and that's really the fun part about this business, is that people from around the country in different industries, working in different applications, come to us with ideas for load space enclosures, different compressor options, inverters, you name it. Being focused like this on this industry, we get to take your dreams and make them into reality service truck wise. If you want to find out what we're building on a regular basis, you can go to Instagram at QT Equipment, Facebook QT Equipment, or our website QTEquipment.com. Work dirty, be happy. Until next time.